So the next class is the Reptilia. So what are the general characteristics of this Reptilia? So first of all, Reptilia. It's a Latin word. Reptilia means it's a reptum. So reptum means they are creepers. Those organisms which creep, okay, those are called as reptiles. So these organisms are creepers and they are cold-blooded organisms. So what do we call when the organism is cold-blooded?
Poikilotherm.
Yeah. Or ectothermic. So why we called it as ectothermic? Because their temperature depends on the external temperature. If the external temperature increases, their temperature increases. If external temperature drops, their temperature drops. So their temperature depends on the atmosphere they live in. So they are called as ectothermic animals. So these have the capability to regulate their body temperature or not?
They can regulate their body temperature.
They can't or they can.
They can.
No, cold-blooded organisms cannot regulate their temperature. That's what I told you. Ectothermic means they depend on whatever the temperature is outside. If the
Okay.
temperature outside increases, their temperature increases. If it's down, their temperature downs. So that's why they live in narrow temperature, narrow range temperature. If the temperature changes very drastically, they will die. So just remember, they can't regulate. Warm-blooded organisms can maintain their temperature. For suppose we are the warm body, right? For suppose if I just go to some Mount Everest where the temperature is minus degree Celsius, but still my internal temperature I'll maintain 36.5 only. If I go to hot Sahara Desert in the summer, the temperature might go more than 50, but still I able to maintain my body temperature at 36.5 only through different mechanisms like a lot of sweating or a lot of shivering. I can do and somehow maintain at 36.5 only. If the temperature changes more 2 or less 2 degrees Celsius, we will gonna die. So that's what. So we need to always maintain 36.5 itself. And these organisms, they are in the Mesozoic era. I mean, they are very superior in the Mesozoic era. If you see the evolution, at particular point in time, some organisms are predominant in the land, on the earth. So these organisms are very predominantly present in the Mesozoic era. So that's why this Mesozoic era is also called as the age of reptiles. We'll be studying about these eras in detail when we study about the evolution. But just for now, you just remember like this. So there is some point in history in the past where the reptiles are more. So that time we call it as Mesozoic era. For suppose right now, it is the era for the humans, mammals, where the mammals are the predominant compared to any other organisms. The next one, these organisms are carnivores or insectivores. So they eat the other organisms or they eat the insects. Okay. But remember, carnivore or insectivores except tortoise. Tortoise doesn't eat other organisms. It depends on the plants. Except tortoise. Okay. And they have 12 pair of cranial nerves. Okay. Coming to the habitat, they live in aquatic habitat. They live in the on the land as well. So aquatic, you can see here the chelone, which is a sea turtle. On the land, chameleon, Hemidactylus, that's a wall lizard, tree lizard. Okay. Some of them can also survive on land as well as in water. Example like crocodile. So crocodile. Okay. Crocodilus. Coming to the body is divided into head and trunk. Okay. And their skin is very dry and rough without glands. Okay. They have these epidermal scales and scutes. You can see here, there's a bulged pimple-like structures. These are called scutes. So skin may also be cornified. That means it's a very rigid, it could be, due to the deposition of some calcium. Snake cast or shed their scales periodically. So we know, right? The snake will lose its outer skin periodically.
Yes.
దాన్ని తెలుగులో పాము పొర అంటారు. I don't know what they will say in Tamil.
This, I think it's palm toll. Feature.
Yeah, tolu ante skin only, no?
Ah,
Yeah.
ah.
So their ears consist tympanum, okay? So tympanic cavity and eustachian tube. So remember this. So tympanum, it will be helpful for also regulating the balance of the body, okay? So we'll be seeing that. Next one, hearing is perceived as a vibrations. So external ear is absent. They don't have the external ear. And they have a two pairs of pentadictyl having 5 digits. Okay. But if you see the previous organisms like amphibians and all, they are having the hind limb with a 5 digit, but the forelimb with the 4 digits. Okay. But here both are 5 digits. And snakes do not have any limbs. They are the limbless reptiles. And circulatory, what kind of circulatory system seen?
Closed.
Closed. Yeah. So closed type. And here they have, if you see here, this is the this is the right atrium, this is the left atrium, and this is a ventricle. Yes. So they have a three-chambered heart. Okay. So there is a two auricles, but only one ventricle. Ventricle is not divided into two. But except the crocodile. Remember, except crocodile. Crocodile, they are having the four-chambered heart. Remember this. Okay, so crocodiles, they are having this four-chambered heart. They have all the right atrium, right ventricle, and left ventricle. So these organisms, they exchange the gases with the help of the lungs. So they shows the pulmonary respiration. And coming to the excretory system, so if you take the turtles and alligators, they are ureotelic. What is meaning of ureotelic?
They excrete urea.
Yeah. So which organisms excrete urea?
That are in moderate conditions, like in the
Yeah,
terrestrial.
as well as water. And crocodile mostly lives in the water. So crocodile, which it will be, it will excrete the ammonia. So they are called as
Ammonotelic.
ammonotelic. Okay, so remember this. And if you see the lizards and snakes, they are mostly on the land, terrestrial. So they will secrete
Uric acid.
uric acid. So they are called as
Uricotelic.
uricotelic. Remember this. So they are called as uricotelic. Okay. And coming to the reptiles, these reptiles, they have the kidneys and their kidneys are metanephric. Can you say what is meaning of metanephric kidney? So what is metanephric kidney? Kidneys which are derived from the nephrotome. So posterior part of nephrotome. Remember this. So this nephrotome, it is present in the mesoderm area. Okay. So it is present in mesoderm. So those kidneys which comes from the nephrotome of the mesoderm area, so they are called as metanephric kidneys. Okay. And nephrons are well differentiated. That means they are fully functional. Okay. So nephrons, they are properly evolved. So well differentiated. And urinary bladder is also present. Reason. Okay. So these are the excretory system. So you need to remember this. So within the excretory system, some are ureotelic, ammonotelic, uricotelic. So turtles and alligators are ureotelic, crocodiles are ammonotelic, and lizards and snakes are uricotelic. Okay. So reproduction, these organisms will show the sexual dimorphism. What do you mean by sexual dimorphism?
The sexes can be differentiated.
Yeah, they are sexual dimorphism. Okay, so the sexes are very distinct and separate. You can easily identifiable. And fertilization, it will happen inside the body. So it is a internal fertilization. Okay, next one. These organisms, what are they? Viviparous or oviparous?
Oviparous.
Yeah, these are oviparous. So oviparous, those which lays the eggs, or you can also call it as ovoviviparous. Some are ovoviviparous. Do you know what is meaning of ovoviviparous? Those which shows the characteristics
What?
of oviparous as well as ovoviviparous. So what happens generally? So for suppose let's take the N example. N. What does it do? It lays the egg, and then it will sit on the egg and it will hatch for some time. So what happens during the hatching? It will provide the warm temperature. So this warm temperature is very good for the embryo to develop. So the embryo will develop and result in formation of the chick. Okay. So if you see here, the embryo maturity or embryo development happens outside the body. Okay. But in ovoviviparous, what happens is they lay the egg. I mean, they will not lay egg. They keep this egg inside their stomach for some time. Okay. So during the inside the stomach, the embryo develops, and then they will give the delivery of this egg. So just the egg will come out and directly it will give the birth. So there will be no embryo development after delivery of the egg. So all the development happen inside the body, but still they are laying the eggs. So they are called as oviparous as well as viviparous or ovoviviparous. Understood? So just remember ovoviviparous, where the embryo develops inside the egg, that happens inside the mother's body, not the outside the mother's body. Okay. So development of embryo inside the body, inside the egg, which is inside the mother body. Understood? What is meaning of ovoviviparous?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, and if you see the development is very direct. That means there is no larva presence. So there is a direct development. Okay. So there will be no larva stage. And if you see the parental care, some organisms will take care of the young ones, some organisms will not take care. For suppose our parents will take care till we get the, complete awareness. Okay. So some reptiles will take care by the mother. So mother will provide the parental care. And in some reptiles, the parental care is absent. For suppose you can see the turtle. So what does this turtle will do? It will lay the eggs and it will not take care of the eggs or development of the baby. Okay. So there is no further parental care. Okay. And there are some reptiles, you can take the crocodile, which will build the nest and which will care the young ones. So you can see here the crocodile and its baby. So it is taking care of its baby. Okay. And what's the difference between the crocodile and alligator? So crocodile, it lives in the saline water. Okay. It will prefer to live in the saline water. Whereas alligator, it prefers to live in the fresh water. And crocodile, they have a lighter brown or tan colored skin. Whereas here, the darkish color is seen. Okay. So these have the brown color, whereas here the dark color, or you can say the grayish color. And if you see here, their snout, this is called as the snout. Okay, so if you see their snout, the snout is V-shaped. So V-shaped snout. And if you see here, it is not so V-shaped. It is like a somewhat broad, whereas here it is very stiff and pointed. So this is a V-shaped, whereas here it's somewhat broad. So you can say it's a U-shaped snout. And ancient reptiles. Actually, these reptiles, they are coming from the dinosaurs. Okay, so remember, dinosaurs are considered as the ancient reptiles. Remember this. So dinosaurs, they are considered as the ancient reptiles. So what is this dinosaur? Dino means it's a very dangerous, terrible. Actually, it is called as a dianos in Latin. Actually, it's in Greek. So it's a dianos. So dianos means terrible in Greek, and saurs. Saurs means lizard. So they are very terrible or dangerous lizards. Okay. So some are like reptile like, some are bird like. Reptile like Saurischia, which is very fast carnivorous, and it's a two-legged organism. And example, you can see Tyrannosaurus. Whereas Ornithischia, it's a herbivores, mostly four-legged. Ankylosaurus is the example. You may find NCERT is not mentioned this, but actually NCERT has mentioned this thing in the evolution a little. So that's why I given here. So next one, some common reptiles here. Just know it. You don't need to memorize. Just know it. Okay. So these are the different kinds of organisms that are there. Just know it. And what's the difference between the turtle and chelone? Okay. So you can see here, limbs are modified for the paddles because turtle lives mostly in the ocean. And tortoise limbs are not modified into paddles, so they cannot swim. Okay. So these are mostly lives on the terrestrial land, whereas these one lives mostly on the aquatic habitat. These are omnivorous, whereas the tortoise, they are herbivores. The turtles 20 to 40 years lifespan, whereas the tortoise, they live 80 to 150 years. Understood?
Yes. Yes.
So the next one, Aves and Mammalia. So vertebrates, we know they are classified into physes and tetrapods. In the tetrapods, we have seen the amphibia, we have seen the reptiles. We need to see the aves and mammals. Okay. So what are aves? What are first amphibious? What are amphibious? Those which live both water and land. You can take frog as an example. Reptiles, these are creepers. Whereas birds,
Aerial. Okay.
yeah. So mostly it's a birds. Aves are birds. You can see here the ostrich, the chicken, and the penguin. Penguin is also a bird. Okay. So they have these wings. Okay. So wings are the modified forelimbs. So if you see here, the forelimbs, it is modified for the flying purpose. So it is a modified forelimbs. And remember, this modified forelimbs, it will be helpful for flying. So it will helpful for flights. Okay. And for some, it is also modified for like a flippers, which will be helpful for swimming. Okay, so modified for swimming. Example, you can take the flippers. So which you can see in the penguin. And some are like a very scale-like feathers. Okay, that's a very short scale-like feathers, which will not be useful for swimming. You can see in the ostrich and kiwi. Okay, so some are very short scale-like feathers, which will not be helpful for flying. So those are present in the flightless birds. Okay, so just know this. The it could be 24 feet. It's not needed, but just know it. Some birds it will be 8 or 3 or 6 feet. And coming to the beak, so beak is a modified jaw. It's a modified jaw. So how it is modified? Based on what food it takes. Okay, and remember, most of all these jaw, okay, all this beak, the modified jaw, it is pointed. Okay, it's a very hard as well as pointed. So why it should be pointed is it will cut the resistance. So it acts like a aerodynamic structure. So it will offer very less resistance, less air resistance. So know this. And most of their beaks, they are black in color. That's because of the keratin deposition. Okay, so the outer surface of this beak has this keratin, and the teeth, they don't have the teeth. So teeth are absent, and they are different beaks based on what food they take. For suppose in general it is like this, and insects it is like this: the mud, grain. Some are nectar eating in birds, some are chestling, some are aerial fishing. So all these are different. How the beaks were modified based on what function they do. And coming to the claws, that means their legs. Okay, so they are scaly. What is meaning of scaly? If you see their structure, it is having like a straighted lines. So those straighted lines, we call it as scaly. And here these claws are formed by the modified hind limbs. Forelimbs is modified for flying, hind limbs is modified for holding the stem and all. Okay, so you can see here how it is modified. So there is a 2-4 toes were present. So just know it is a hind limbs. And 2-4 toes were present. And in the 2-4 toes, uh, mostly all are front, but one will be back. So that it will be act like a thumb for holding. You can see here, 3 were front, 1 is back. So that it can hold the stem. So 3 will come in front, the 1 will come back. So which acts like a holding. So there is a different functions for the one will be helpful for walking. So one will be helpful for running. And the other one is helpful for clasping. That is holding the stem of the plant. Next one, coming to the feathers, they grow from the epidermal layer. You know what is epidermal layer? The outermost layer
The
of the skin, we
skin.
call it as epidermal layer. Okay. And remember, these feathers are very distinct to outer covering. That means each of the birds will be having different kinds of feathers, different colors you can see here. Okay. So distinct to outer covering. They are very distinct from bird to bird. So based on the shape and color. So one will be big in size, one will be short in size, one will be having multiple colors, one will be having single colors, monocolors. Like in uh, crow, it is completely black. So some also acts like a camouflage, the feathers. That means they will blend with the external appearance. I mean the background. You can see here, this stem and this bird almost having the same color. So the predator cannot identify this bird. Some see, you can see here, this is the background, and this background, this was blended, so the predator cannot identify it, cannot able to identify, cannot able to detect. So some also for attracting the opposite sex, like you can see in the black sickle bill, and the greater Lophornia. Okay, so just know the uses of the feather is, one is control, flight. The other one is it acts like an insulator. So it will do the insulation as they are waterproof, and some they are helpful for protection. So you can see in the camouflage, and some will be for attracting the opposite sex. So attraction. Okay. So you can see here. In the case of birds, it's mostly the male that is more presentable in order to attract the female. So they are more colorful, or they sing or dance to attract the usually less attractive females. Okay. So next one, oil gland. So these are having this oil gland at the base of their tail. So you can see here, this is the tail. At the base of this tail, this oil gland is present. So base of the tail, present at base of the tail. Next one, this oil gland is also called as the preen gland or urophysial gland. Okay. So what is the use of this oil gland? So it will keep the feathers waterproof. So it will provide the feathers waterproof. And it also helps the feather flexible and strong. And it also acts like an anti-parasitic. So if there is any insects are there, it will kill them. So anti-parasitic activity. So that's also called as the cosmetic effect. Okay. So see here, evolution of birds. Birds evolved from ancient reptiles. That's a dinosaurs. You can see here. So how the evolution has taken place, and how the uh, forelimb has converted into the feather-like structure. Okay. So just remember, birds evolved from dinosaurs, extinct dinosaurs. So this is how the journey has happened. So the dinosaurs, they are converted into the bird-like structures, the aves. So evolution of the scale. So scales on the birds similar to reptilians. Okay. So if you see the scales of these birds, they are similar to the reptilians. So similar. Okay. And see here, these scales are epidermal in origin. Know this. And how does the internal characteristics of these aves? First one, these are homotherms. Homotherm means can maintain or they can't.
They can
Oikothermic means they
regulate.
cannot. Homotherm means,
They will regulate their blood.
yeah, can maintain stable body temperature. Okay. So just know this. They can maintain their stable body temperature. So next one, these are having the pneumatic bones. As these birds, they need to fly. If they are having these heavier bones, they cannot fly due to the weight. So mostly these bones are hollow in structure. So they are hollow and filled with air. So due to this reason, it will reduce the weight and it will be helpful for flight. Remember this. Next one. These are having the ossified or bony endoskeleton. So endoskeleton is present, not the exoskeleton. Ossified or bony endoskeleton. And they also have this keel. So what is this keel? Keel is also called as the sternum, okay, or the breastbone. So keel is associated with the sternum or breastbone. You know, right? What is the sternum? The one which is just front of the lungs, which is joined to the rib cage. That we call it as sternum. So it will be something like this, to which the limbs were joined. Okay, so this one we call it as the sternum bone or the breastbone. And these are boat shaped, which will be helpful for attachment of the flight muscles. So whatever the muscles that go to the wings, which are helpful for flapping of these feathers, for the muscles, it is connected to this scale. Okay, so it helps in attachment of the flight muscles. So it provides the place for attachment of flight muscles. And these are absent in the flightless birds because they don't need. Okay, so attachment of flight birds absent in flightless birds. So next one, digestive system. If you see here, the digestive system, they have this crop and gizzard. Okay, so you can see here, they have this crop and they also have the gizzard. So what's the use of this crop is, it will help for the storing of food. So store food. And gizzard, it helps for grinding the food. We have a teeth, but they don't have a teeth. So the grinding will happen inside the gizzard. So it will do the grinding. Okay, and they have this trachea. You can see here, they have the lungs, they have the trachea, and they have this air sacs. Okay, so air sacs will be helpful for storage of the air. So stores air so that they can flight. Okay, so it acts like a the bulged one, so that it acts like the bulged balloon, so it can float in the air. So store air for flight. And this trachea and lungs are present. Okay, and remember, lungs associated with air sacs. Coming to the heart, so these are having the both left atrium, left ventricle, and right ventricle. So there is a four-chambered heart. So the first four-chambered heart is seen in the crocodiles, and these are the next after the crocodiles, these organisms come. So they also have this four-chambered heart. Reproduction. If you see here, the male and female are different. So what do we call these organisms as? Unisexual or
Right.
disexual? Uni or bisexual?
No, means it's separate, right? So it's unisex.
Yeah, unisexual. Monoecious or dioecious?
Dioecious.
Yeah, these are dioecious. So sexes are separate, unisexual organisms, dioecious. And these shows the fertilization inside the body. So internal fertilization. Okay, and they lay eggs. So what do we call when they lay eggs? Ova or vivi?
Ovipair.
Yeah, they are oviparous. And they have no larva stage, so they will show the direct development. And parent care is also observed. Okay. So, what is the reason that they could flight, but the other cannot flight? One is they have a very streamlined body. Actually, the design of the aircraft, the idea got from the birds itself. Okay, so they can streamline the body. So that's how you can see if the airplane, it will be having two big, large wings, which is almost at the front of the body. So the same way here. So they have this streamlined body, and they have a four limbs which are modified wings. So the streamlined body and the feathers, that's nothing but it got by the four limbs, which acts like a wings. And they have these feathers. So presence of feathers, and they have the beak so that it will offer less aero resistance. So it's a very aerodynamic nature. And they have a hollow air filled bones. So hollow air filled bones. What do we call those bones as? Pneumatic
Ossified.
bones. Yeah, but we called it as a pneumatic bones.
Pneumatic.
Okay. So where it is filled, I mean, it's having empty sacs. That empty sacs is filled with air. So it will reduce the weight. And they have this presence of air sacs in lungs as well. So some part of oxygen is stored. Okay. So presence of air sacs in lungs. Understood? So next one is class mammalia. So we'll continue this class mammalia in the next class. So it's just, it will take some 30 minutes, then this class will be over. Okay.
Yes, sir. But after that, what can we start?